Hey guys, Stock Saturday, and it's a very surprising week, really. Up 17.5% or 112,000. So that's remarkably surprising considering where it's come from. You may have seen the news, seen the stock up. IREN is up 24% for the week, so that has a reasonable effect on my position in the ISA, but a remarkable effect on the options side. So, yeah, very strange. With Bitcoin down, the earnings, must have impressed everyone, I guess, compared to the S&P. So 17.5% up for the week. The S&P is up 0.04%. That's very steady progress. It did sort of drop early in the week, went up on Thursday, and then Friday didn't seem to like the core PCE inflation sort of being on expectations, basically slightly up from last month, and yeah, maybe it goes into rate cut expectations yet again. I do sort of think we're going a little bit too far into the weeds on this, to be honest. People looking at every single comment from anyone and every tick of inflation, you sort of think rates are going to come down at some point, whether it be now or later. The Nasdaq is actually down 0.17% in the last 5 days, so underperforming the S&P again slightly. So I think outside of Mag 7 for once, or outside of the top 10 some people are looking at now, is doing a little bit better. S&P sort of was breaking all-time highs on Thursday, whereas Nasdaq is a little way off all-time highs now. So yeah, good to see things broadening out from Mag 7 at least. Just noting as well, I'll come to it a little bit later, but I did sell a little bit of the IREN options and have sort of already put that into Trading212. So I bought a little bit of Applied Materials, a little bit more BlackRock, a little bit more CME Group, and a little bit of Ingredient. Still looking at buying a little bit more. I've spent about 8,000 of total of 12,000 available, and yeah, I am considering putting some of the remainder into AB Limited, a Swiss manufacturing company, or maybe Swedish, can't remember now. I've been looking into them over the weekend, so I had them recommended as a reasonably big player in sort of automation, sort of a picks and shovels play on automation, really. They sort of make the bits and pieces that go into, robotic arms and all sorts, potentially robots around the world. So, yeah, having more of a look into them. Market was closed sort of before I could make that decision, so we'll have a look next week. So looking at IREN, they did two releases, the earnings, and noting that they've expanded their AI cloud, purchasing another 1,200 NVIDIA B300s. Didn't realise they were on the B300 already, and 1,200 liquid-cooled NVIDIA GB300s for $168 million. This expands their fleet to 10,900, and yeah, they've secured 96 million in financing for it, and the rest sort of funded through cash. So yeah, interesting. They now have sort of H100s, 200s, 300s, and yeah, hopefully there is demand for these out the wazoo. They're obviously noting they have 3 gigawatts of total power, and that would take, tens, hundreds of thousands of GPUs. They can't afford that, so still sort of talking about various deals. So this is what got everyone very excited. I guess it's the more AI cloud side, because the Bitcoin revenue is essentially known. So I didn't see why this would be so much of a surprise. And it's to June the 30th, so it is, very much known. People could have calculated the numbers a little while ago. But yeah, the 10,900 GPUs, 200 to 250 million in cloud annualized revenue by December 2025. That's pretty strong. The AI cloud stuff has been a small minority of revenue. So yeah, these are starting to get pretty big numbers, and they keep noting that it's very, very high profit margin once it's going after the initial capex. And yeah, they have they're showing over 60,000 Blackwell GPUs capacity over at the British Columbia data centers, and over 19,000 at their Horizon 1 center. So obviously they're $40,000 per GPU. So as I say, it's incredibly expensive. They're not going to be sort of buying all them at once. And they are an NVIDIA preferred partner, which is positive. And kind of still noting the same news, really. British Columbia, their small site is pushing on. Childress, Horizon 1 still on track for Q4 2025. Sort of hoping for an AI deal with somebody at some point, or whether they just carry on buying GPUs themselves and sort of running their own cloud, for the sake of news and big news and price going up by the end of the year, which is what I'm looking for on the options. Certainly, I'm not really looking to hold IREN for 2, 3, 4 years as some people are. I would probably prefer a deal rather than them do it themselves, but we'll see. That's only 50 megawatts, of course, and then the Horizon 2 they are now working on. And then you have the enormous 1,400 megawatt site at Sweetwater progressing to energization April 2026. So again, that would take tens and tens of billions of dollars. They haven't got that to expand. A lot of people are sort of thinking Bitcoin can go up and they'll have the money, but yeah, there's no hope of that whatsoever. Sweetwater 2, late 2027 energization. So it's really, you're buying, if people are sort of looking to invest, they're buying potential for other companies wanting to get in and co-locate. Although, as I say, a lot of people are still saying, no, do it all yourself. I think that's basically impossible. So balance sheet wise, cash increased to 564 million. Property, plant and equipment increased from 440 million to 1.9 billion in 1 year. So you can see how much they're expanding. Deposits and prepaid expenses, that's pretty good, reduced from 257 million to 32. So they haven't got sort of future price commitments in the pipeline. Financial assets 211 million and derivatives 122. Not entirely sure what that is, because they don't hold, as far as I'm aware, they don't hold Bitcoin, so I'm not sure what their financial assets are. I have to see if I can find out that. And then, yes, convertible notes. Obviously, they did take out a load of convertible debt to help with financing some of these expansion operations. 962 million, but compared to what the market cap is now, that's not really all that much. And if it's convertible, then that would become shares as Bitcoin rises, presumably. That's what we're sort of hoping. Don't really want to be paying that all back. And as I say, that converting into shares with today's market cap wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So total liabilities of 1.2 billion, as they start to make a lot more money, that will hopefully shrink into not a whole lot. And then statement of operations, 484 million in Bitcoin revenue compared to 181. Obviously, they've expanded a huge amount in the last year, and 16 million AI cloud services compared to 3. As I say, they're sort of talking about 200 to 250 for this annualized by the end of 2025. So basically, December 2025 to December 2026, they think will be 200 to 250 with their new sites opening. So yeah, cost of revenue almost doubled. That's no surprise. Selling, I wish this was a little bit lower. Selling, general and administrative, 136 million. That's quite a lot. So, quarter, what is it, 30% of revenue? That's a hell of a lot. And 181 million depreciation. So it is still an operating income of only 17 million, which isn't ideal when it's many billions in market cap now. But people are still looking at the future, of course. Financing, and you have a load of sort of adjustments to get to net profit, finance expense, interest income, because they hold a little bit of cash and aren't paying a lot on their debt at all. And then unrealized gain on financial instruments. I wouldn't count that, to be honest. So yeah, they're showing a net profit of 87 million compared to a net loss of 29 last year. But I think probably the operating income really is, is the more sort of realistic figure. Maybe some of these expenses to come off that, would essentially be break even net profit. So yeah, not a huge profit to sort of report. Everyone, was very happy with these earnings. I presume just for, possibly for this 200 to 250 million number. That does, that is a massive increase from 16 million that they've just done in the last year. Yeah, that's pretty solid, and they do start to be compared to your sort of CoreWeaves and other sort of cloud GPU companies with many multiples of IREN's market cap. I think CoreWeave sort of were at 10 times IREN's market cap. That sort of differential has come down quite a bit. CoreWeave sort of, everyone says, have the specialist software that hyperscalers want, and they would use them rather than maybe use someone like IREN, but we'll have to see. As I say, personally, from a selfish point of view, as I'm not looking to hold the stock all that long, I would prefer a sort of big multi-billion-dollar deal, especially as I say, they can't afford to build the 2 gigawatt Sweetwater site themselves, so they're going to need someone to come in, do a deal just on more favourable terms than everyone else, maybe as demand starts to go up. But yeah, this is doing the business at the moment. I shall carry on taking profits as we go, I expect. One that I was considering putting some of that money into, but didn't in the end, may do in the future, is KGHM Group, my sort of copper and silver bet. I do like the mix of copper and silver. This is my sort of more risky southern copper, I suppose, than being a little bit higher cost. They give their sort of headline figures. It's not looking tremendously good. Copper, to be fair, was doing pretty well last year, so it's a tough year to compare it to. But silver is up. Obviously, this is up to June, so silver has sort of started outperforming in the last 2 months. Maybe Q3 will look a little bit better. And this is the first half of the year rather than the second quarter. So yeah, revenue up 0.4%, adjusted EBITDA up a reasonable amount, but net profit down. And yeah, we'll sort of come to, well, they do, yeah, so they split out production into the second quarter and the second half. The first half, both are down a little bit, but copper sort of still doing okay. As a group, copper down to 344,000 tonnes from 358. I still sort of think of them as 600,000 a year, so 344,000 for the first half is pretty solid to me. But yeah, 4% down, and silver production down 3%. Again, sort of if they're doing 40 million ounces, I think that's, what is that, 1,300 tons per year. That's pretty good with me, considering where I'm hoping it will go. Quite a lot of molybdenum as well, 1.7 is that £1 million. It's only a sort of small amount of their total. So yeah, production going reasonably well, sort of against their 2025 targets. So that's pretty good. They give you the split of their adjusted EBITDA, noting that this is sort of mainly from the Sierra Gorda, their sort of 55% stake in that international site. That was up significantly, and the international side, the rest of the international side has done pretty well. The main Polska Meads site is sort of relatively flat. They note expenses sort of up 4% as a group, and yeah, breaking down that by cost, $2.61 total cost per pound. Well, C1 costs are a cash cost rather than sort of all-in sustaining cost, as I always whinge about, but it's constant at least. So 261 down from 276. Noting that the main side of the group, that is actually up to $3.15 from $3, but it's the international side that is really helping things, doing the heavy lifting. International down to 99 cents from $1.87. We did report in the Q1 results that both of these had come down quite significantly. So this is first and second quarter now. Still carrying on doing well. Sierra Gorda down to $1.12 from $1.89, and they're sort of noting that this is increases in byproducts, sort of gold and silver sales and things, being a larger quantity, whereas the main Polish sites and things had higher minerals extraction tax and currency issues, which they do note. Yeah, they do note here. So profit for the period was 1.07 billion Polish, and yeah, they're sort of noting profit on joint ventures has sort of helped things, but 1.3 billion in FX differences basically. So I don't see that as as too much of a negative. Income tax, and then yeah, the total of this sort of brings you to 580 million net profit compared to 1.07 billion. But yeah, I see that as pretty solid. Basically, all of the negative has come from FX differences, not operations. So with prices of the metals hopefully improving, we shouldn't sort of see this stark difference again. Cash flow is a bit lower as well, 430 million compared to 715. They're sort of investing quite a lot in maintenance capex and exploration capex as well. They do sort of have to. These are obviously enormous mines, far bigger than your sort of average copper mine is far bigger than your average gold and silver mine. So yeah, it takes a lot of money just to replace basically maintenance capex. I think sort of being maintaining what you're running at the moment, and then as that starts to dwindle, you have to have exploration capex just to replace what you're mining at the moment. So it's very cash intensive, but I do like the focus on the metals. So yeah, they give you some ratios here. Net debt to adjusted EBITDA is basically the same as last year. Net debt is up a reasonable amount in US dollars. Part of that is FX, of course. In Polish, it's not up quite so much. And yeah, they note the profit, net profit down from 1.3 billion to just 113 million. A huge amount of that is exchange FX differences. They've had some write-downs as well, so that's a non-cash item, which is pretty good. And yeah, slightly less tax and some other bits and pieces as well, but that is the bulk of it. So yeah, no real sort of worries about that. Most of that is non-cash, and FX will be what it will be. We've had a huge amount of weakness in the dollar. And as I say, that was up to the end of June, of course, being the first half. They have come out with their July production numbers. I always like this sort of being very up to date. Good to have. So July copper down to just a shade under 60,000 tons. That's still pretty good. And silver up to 130.4 tons. So a very, very nice month for them in silver. Note in the sort of January to July figures, 404 million in 404,000 tons of copper compared to 419. Still, reasonably good. Hopefully that can pick up sort of towards the end of the year. I think they had a little bit of maintenance as well earlier in the year, so yeah, nothing too much there. And 787 tons of silver compared to 792, so almost bang on. Very, very nice. The rest of their sort of precious metals down ever so slightly as well, sort of byproducts, as I say, to bring down the cost of their copper unit cost. So yeah, July looks pretty good. With sort of silver prices going up as well. This 130 tons hopefully will feed in quite nicely to Q3 earnings, and so we'll see where we go for August and September. So, economic news for the week. I don't think there was all that much. Monday, Tuesday, even almost nothing on Wednesday. And then Thursday, you got the jobless claims, initial and continuing, both down and both lower than expected. So everyone was quite happy about that. GDP for Q2 is obviously significantly up from the negative from Q1. A lot of people sort of saying that you should add Q1 and 2 together, and that sort of give you a little bit more realistic figure for the year so far with the tariff impact. So yeah, maybe not quite as strong as some people were hoping if you do that. And then yeah, Friday you got the PCE numbers, sort of all entirely bang on the forecast. So yeah, people didn't seem to like that. I think people were maybe hoping for a little bit under. Core PCE 2.9% compared to last month's 2.8, and obviously Jerome Powell and everyone are still saying we want it coming towards 2%. So maybe a hint now that they, if they cut in September with this going up and they say that's their preferred inflation measure, that might sort of look a little bit weak. So I guess we're back on, potential of September not being a cut. But as I say, it's coming eventually. So portfolio-wise, as I say, we're sort of seeing some relatively drastic changes. I am sort of continuing to look at Coeur mining and sort of thinking that's getting a very, very growing part of the portfolio, especially being up to $13.15 now. We saw silver is starting to have a little bit of a push for $40. Sort of been 38, 39 and sort of hitting 39, going back down again. But did start to push through and I think sort of ended in the mid 39s. So yeah, Coeur mining absolutely loves that, and is now 13% of my portfolio, which is a hell of a lot. CleanSpark sort of down again. The sort of CleanSpark and Coeur mining were pretty much on par not so long ago. Now Coeur mining obviously pushing far ahead. Fresnillo back above £17. So was languishing a little bit below there, but also loving the silver move. Gold as well, sort of doing pretty solid. So Equinox 876, highest it's been for for a very, very long while. So that's good. 87% in the green on that note, where I was it was looking a bit, a bit unhappy. And IREN sort of finished the day on 26.48. Was sort of up to $29, I think, at the open, and I sort of did try and sell a little bit more, but it wasn't to be. I was a little bit too late to it. But yeah, the portfolio up rather nicely for the week. Interactive brokers, both of these sort of just still chugging along. Pan American doing a little bit better than KGHM, of course, but I expect them to do well going forward. As I say, I may be looking to invest a little bit more in them with, them not really seeing a huge amount of gain and producing so much silver. A lot of people sort of looking for a decent silver play, and I think ignore them. I think they get ignored for copper as well, though. So yes, the option side, as you can see, IREN now at a rather ridiculous figure. Probably should have just taken some profit anyway. This is wrong. I did take a little bit of profit, 20 contracts. Maybe not as much as I should have done, but yeah, 172,000. Stock going up 24% in a week just has a enormous outsized effect on the options. So over 21 times my money now. Cool mining though, pushing up to nearly 17 times my money. These are still sort of end of the year, January expiries, so time is sort of getting short, but I still think there's a reasonable amount of move still to go, so I will continue sort of averaging out as we go. I maybe should have took a little bit more Cool mining if they're sort of, hadn't realised they'd quite pushed up to that until I was running the figures here, but yeah, maybe next week's holiday on Monday, American holiday, so it would have to be during the week. Hive has pushed up as well on some of this good news, even though they don't really have a huge amount of AI, and Bitcoin is down, so it was a bit of a surprise. I think maybe they're just getting some love from IREN doing well, and Hive obviously have some GPUs as well, so yeah, otherwise not a huge amount of sort of good news for them. They are expanding in hash rate, but yeah, that's gone green as a position. It's still lots and lots of sort of profit on the or $3.50 and $4 calls, so stock sort of getting up to $2.80 now. Those are looking good, but an enormous loss on the $10 calls. $10 by January is looking a very, very tall order. If we get a sort of spike up on Hive, I may look to sort of get out of the $10 calls at sort of break even and let the lower strike price ones run. That's a little bit sort of technical if you're not really into options. Equinox pushing on. This was sort of 20,000, then 30,000, and now 37,000. So solidly in the green now, which is very nice. And these are January 2027, so still almost a year and a half to run. I've got a lot of hope for those going forward. And it's my only sort of one of all of these beyond January this year, or this coming year. So yeah, looking good. Riot sort of barely moved. Himax is up a little bit, and Cypher, yeah, up quite a lot. Sort of going basically in tandem with IREN, sort of relatively. Although there's potential they could be announcing a big deal where IREN don't seem to want to. Cypher seem like they maybe want to follow TerraWolf and people like that, announcing a sort of multi-billion-dollar deal. So we'll have to see. Withdrew all the cash and put that into Trading212, and we'll still be withdrawing sort of 66,000 towards the end of September to pay off the mortgage. So yes, very surprising and very good week considering what Bitcoin did. So yeah, let me know how you guys are doing. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and like and subscribe. See you soon.